Good morning, Frank Watkins, 2nd of December. Howdy, Kylie.
Good morning. How are we all?
Look, just going to run through a few stocks today rather than actually do a scan. But if you were doing a scan that might make sense, assuming that you want to go long or buy a stock, do a Dava scan using something like a 54-day scan period. 34, make it 55.
55, I think 55, yeah.
Because if something's punching a 55-day high right now in the market we've had for the last week, it must be a very strong stock. Anyway, all odds, we're still just resting on this support yet again. Touch wood. I don't place a lot of emphasis on balance volume on indices, but if you do, at least during this decline, we haven't had any massive sell-off. OBV still looks okay. Anyway, onto a couple of stocks that we sort of watch, maybe own, maybe whatever, but for one reason or another, they are just very interesting. First one's BrainChip. This runs on news. It's interesting. The on-balance volume is fading very marginally, but lower and lower and lower and lower volume. So during this bit of a pullback here, there's no great selling. In fact, I'd argue the buyers are still on top of it. The price can't even go back and close this gap back here. So to me, that's a bit of a sign of strength. FFX, a lot of news about this lately. It's just broken out, and this really must be taken as a great sign. If something breaks out while pretty much the whole market's falling out of bed and has held on today, I think that's a pretty classic buy and hold. There is news on that worth reading. They're going to spin off, they're gold and lithium, and they're going to spin off the lithium at some stage earlier in the new year. CXO, I like checking this one. Simply, I keep bringing this up in workshops. If we drag in more data, we had original buy signals back here, long-term resistance, another buy signal, medium-term resistance, another buy signal, short-term resistance. Where you exit, the ball is in your court. That's what always causes the grief. But then we bring in more data and we have another whole repeat. Long-term resistance, short-term resistance, medium-term resistance, long, medium, short. Let's go that way. We've now formed a bit of a sideways consolidation pattern yet again. We have closed, well, if there was a gap there, we probably closed it. OBV definitely fading on this one, but again, I just tend to think it's boredom, waiting for more news from CXO.
Which I think the longer that can move sideways, the stronger it will be the next move up anyway. So you kind of would like it to move sideways for a while longer yet, I would think.
One way or another, a buy and a break of 65, 66. Let's go down the gutter. This more than interests us. Let's just say that. There's a faint chance that we actually own some. There was a buyback here at 1.3. If you weren't on that, maybe the break of 1.5 got you. Happy days here on the 17th of November. Now we're pulling back. The difference between BRN CXO, where on balance volume is fading, and RAN, the OBV is rock solid. The only thing going on here again is boredom, bit of profit taking, very low volume, good OBV. Touch wood, we can hang on to at least the 1.5 level, but pretty good looking support right across here at 1.7. Again, probably just need some news or maybe even a better market to go for a bit of a gallop. Last one I'll have a look at before I hand over to Kylie is West Farmers. Now, West Farmers, had this incredible run from March through to September, from around $47 to $64. Backed off, I think from memory, the gap here is dividend. We formed a bit of a base here and have rallied, closed the gap. So to my mind, the closing of that gap and the penetrating of that gap was a pretty good entry somewhere in here. Now, we moved forward a bit, and currently, if you bought anywhere around here, you're going to be behind the 8 ball a little bit at the moment. Now, things with West Farmers, pretty big volume on this down day, but I tend to think if you're in West Farmers at all, you're in there for a long term. Now, to my mind, if we're going to call this a significant low, I'm going to call that a high, touch wood a high or low, then we move on. A lot of it depends on how low it goes now, if you bought anywhere in here. But look, at the moment with every stock, you've just got to keep an eye on everything. You will trade long-term stocks like West Farmers a little differently from the gutter stuff like RAN. So there's a couple that we're just watching, and now I shall hand over to Kylie.
Thank you. It is interesting at the moment. We've been doing scans and there aren't many results that are coming up. And I think now you need to put your thinking caps on a little bit to work out what you're looking for in this market, or you don't buy anything. Again, we're always waiting for that perfect setup. So you don't need to. You can sit back and wait for that setup to happen. And the past scans during this week, you've seen that there are, but you just got to wait. There's some setups happening. It's just that waiting game now. But I thought I'd try the Heikin-Ashi scan, something completely different today. This is based on averages. So it's not going to, don't look at this chart and go, oh, the pricing isn't correct. It won't be, because it is on average. But what it does is it takes a lot of the noise out, and you can see obviously this green is a big uptrend, the red's indicator down. So what we're looking for ideally would be red with a green tick. This is the opposite. So we'd move on from this. It's had its run. This also has had its run.
Would you look at something like that, and let's say you were in APA from lower levels, would you look at those two red ticks and do anything, i.e. tighten stops or exit? Or...
Yeah, look, that's a good point. That's a good indication that there's a change, could possibly be a change in trend. So I'd certainly be doing a bit more analysis on it and looking at what your sell signal is. Again, depending where you bought it. But yes, it's not a bad idea if it's had a big long run and you're not wanting to hold it. Yeah, it's a good strategy to perhaps look at this for a sell signal. I'd do a bit of work and work out what your sell signals are. That's interesting. See, this is what we're looking for. It's been in a long down run.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to change, so it might be worth putting your watches and doing a bit of work on this one to see if that fits.
Handy for an intelligent attempt to pick a bottom.
Yes.
And obviously from that you can use a really tight stop.
Yeah, Yeah.
Low risk trade.
Same with that one. You know, it's write them down, put them in a watch list, and go back and do some work on it. I don't think there's much that goes through, so there's all the things you need to ask yourself. But like Frank says, it's just sometimes it gives you a bit of a clue into a change in trend. That one's still working out what it wants to do. That's interesting as well. It's an energy stock, so that might be worth having a look at.
Tightly held.
Yep. That's still trying to work out what it's doing. There's another one that's very tightly held. Shivers.
That might be bottoming.
Yeah.
The OBV is kicking a little bit.
Yeah. That probably would look very gappy, I'd say, if you put it on a candle.
Yeah.
Gappy, but
yeah.
Interesting. That could be now a bit of a sell signal if you're in KWR. Good up run. Still working out what it's doing. Looks a bit like bottoming action. Again, if I was in this, you might want to be looking at your sell signal. Not sure about that one. That one, when I say I'm not sure about it, it's not sure about it. It's still working it out. Again, this one, maybe a bit more work into what it's actually doing. Looks like a bit of a change. That still doesn't know what it's doing. That's a pretty good tick up. That looks quite promising. And that's
some sort of option.
Yeah, option, yeah. So I don't know, it's just a different scan to just get some different results to go back and do a bit more work on.
And from an old timer's point of view, we're used to codes like BHP, Broken Hill Proprietary. You now get things like TNY, Tiny Beans Group.
I wonder if it's a date
So
there.
they sort of little beans? Or
Yes.
This is why you do actually have to do that tiny bit of fundamental work
Do
these
some
days just to
research,
work out
what
what
it
the
is.
heck tiny beans actually are.
Communication. Okay.
Oh, okay, so it's not jelly beans.
No.
Okay, thank you very much.
Chat to
We're
you.
a bit sleep deprived and getting a bit dirty.
Yeah. Chat to you all next week.